Okay, in this video I'm going to show you how to clean the Jandy Pro Series Pool and Spa Filter model CV580, which is similar to a few of their other models. Some of them signify whether the plumbing comes in on one side and goes out the other, but this is a cartridge system with 4 filters inside. The pressure is a little bit high. It's been 6 months, very similar to its starting pressure, which is typical of these large cartridge filters. But I'm going to show you step by step how to clean it. First step is to turn the pump off, which this is a Jandy system, and it would be right there to service mode. Okay. After that, I will be removing this clamp right here, and also the drain plug at the bottom, undoing that before I do anything else. So I use a drill with a 9/16 socket, but you can use a wrench, basically socket set if you want to manually remove it. But this is, I'll try and do it one-handed. This is an easier way and faster way. There we go. There we go. And just make sure when you put it back together that you do not start it with the drill. You need to thread it on several times so that you don't accidentally cross thread with the drill. Okay, these are actually supposed to be hand tight, but a large pair of channel locks makes the job a whole lot easier. And actually, if you start to see, well, you can remove it either way, but it's supposed to separate from here, not from here. So I saw that moving, and so I'm going to go get another pair of channel locks to stop that from happening, holding one side and then the other. Okay, now that I can hold one side solid with one pair of channel locks, and the other side I should be able to remove without spinning the other portion. Once that's loose, you can remove it by hand. It's very easy. And you will see that there's a little cap at the end, this little cap right here. Sometimes that stays on, and all you have to do is pull that off. And then we come up here and we open the air bleed, which will speed up the process at the bottom. Right now the water is draining from the tank, and I can actually remove the clamp at any time by pulling on both sides and letting it nicely sit down a little bit lower. As long as it's not on there, it's sitting on the plumbing over there, so that's fine. And once the water level gets down below this clamp area, I can remove the lid, but right now it won't. The suction and negative pressure will not let me pull that off. But just wait a minute and we'll be able to pull the lid off. Okay, we're at the end of the water coming out, and so I should be able to grab the handle here and remove. Yes, there we go. I'm going to use both hands to remove this filter, lifting it straight up and off and setting it down. I leave the air bleed open. That's this part right here, because I want it to be open when I put it back together anyway. And now this filter has been cleaned 6 months ago, so you'll see that it's discolored, and there's some sediment and stuff like that, and definitely some material inside the filters, but not terribly dirty. But every 6 months, regardless of the filter pressure, even though it only went up a couple of pounds, it should be cleaned every 6 months, which I do spring and fall. Also note that all the material in the opening of the groove of the O-ring here, I always remove the O-ring and spray down the groove and clean that completely with hose, because otherwise when you put the filter back together, it very well might have some material in there and it will not seal. You'll have a leak and you'll have to take the whole top back off again. So at this point we just remove this, which is the manifold at the top on this filter. Just wiggle and pull, and on all sides. There we go. It's loose. This is a screen for the air bleed. It needs to be there in case that's missing. Material will bypass the filter and can clog the pool cleaner lines and let material go back to the pool. Just look for cracks or anything in these manifolds. Both sides, just look for cracks. You can clean this with the garden hose. And then after you get this off, I always set this down in a safe location and then these simply pull out one at a time. There won't be any more water left at the bottom, you know, to speak of. And so just pull each cartridge out one at a time and set it in a location where you're going to be cleaning it. And then literally just clean the cartridge. I usually work, you know, a 3 or 4 inch section at a time and work my way down. It'll take me about 30 minutes to completely clean all 4 filters. And just to show you, after I've cleaned just this little section here, see if I can hold this with the phone and clean. Anyway, basically the filter comes clean pretty easily. I will work at this in detail, try and get as many angles as possible. You can rotate your hose and just keep working at it until you get all of the filter clean. Like I said, it will take about 30 minutes, but I just wanted to show you the difference between the two. Okay, so the manifold at the bottom just sets back in place. The 4 cartridges sit on top, and then the top manifold sits on top of the cartridges, making sure that everything is clean, pushed down well, just kind of move it like that. By the way, these are Unicell filter replacements. They are not the originals from Jandy, and I installed them 6 months ago, and they made it through the summer just perfectly fine. They look beautiful. And best of all, they're made in the USA. They're built really, really well. The plastic material is great. Everything is a nice fit versus I've had many other brands that I don't like the way they fit, and these fit perfectly like the originals. And the material is very good, comes very clean, and it does a very good job filtering the pool. The next step is to set the filter top back on and align the air bleed and pressure gauge the direction that you want them to be. In this case, the equipment is mostly over here, so essentially that's where I want to see it each time. And then I'm gonna have to use both hands to put that clamp on. So what happens is you just reach around and pull it tight, and then make sure that it's on both the upper and lower part around the actual 2 sides, and then take the bolt and hand thread it on 3 or 4 times, and then you can take the drill and tighten it until the gap closes, and I'll show you. So essentially, if you're using a drill, just start slow. I've already hand threaded that on, and then start slow, and eventually you'll see the clamp closing. You can take a weight. On this filter, it's really not necessary, like a small hammer, and tap around the clamp to make sure it evenly tightens, but this Jandy does it on its own really well. So just until the drill kind of bogs down a little bit, that's all that's necessary. As long as you're about less than a ½ an inch gap right there between that is enough where it will put enough pressure on that O-ring to seal the filter. Make sure the air bleed is still open. And then now we have to put the drain cover back on, and then we can go ahead and turn on the filter, and I'll show you that. By the way, I'm only doing this hand tight. I'm not using my channel locks to tighten. So really just as tight as you can get it with your hand, and that will seal. Okay, I've just turned the pump on. Remember, the air bleed is open, the clamp is closed, the drain plug is closed, and this pump is going to take it a second to prime. And then we can already hear air and feel air coming out here, and that will increase as the pump primes. You'll get a bunch of air until finally you get water. And once you get water, you can close this. This is very important, by the way. Even says on the sticker, you know, basically can cause injury or even death if you do not bleed the air when you this entire tank is full of air right now, and air will pressurize. And if you leave this closed, it is possible that you blow the lid off this thing and hurt yourself or the house or the plumbing or anything else. So it's going to get loud. That's the air coming out. It's pretty strong. And eventually it will be water, and then I tighten that. Once it's water, there's no more danger. It is water does not compress like air does, and it can't blow the lid off this thing like that. Unless, of course, you don't tighten your clamp at all. So anyway, hang on one moment. There we go. And now I can tighten this. And I can make sure that I reset the pressure gauge to be the new clean starting pressure right there. So around 13 pounds or so of pressure. And then when it gets to this, which it never will, unless you let it go a year or two, is when you would have to clean it again. but usually every 6 months we clean it. It's only gone up a few pounds. So that's it. That's how you clean the Jandy Pro Series 4 cartridge system. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope that was helpful.